Hello everybody, it's Maria. I've tried filming this video several times and I keep getting interrupted by kids or losing my train of thought. So I'm gonna do my best. Hopefully I'll hit everything that I wanted to talk about. I have my little note card here, so if you see me looking down, that's one of the reasons why. If you're new to my channel, I'm Maria. I am a homeschooling mom of 3. Even without the pandemic, we normally homeschool. Primarily, I'm here to talk about books, life, parenting, social justice-y stuff, whatever pops into my head. And I've been off of here for a couple weeks because everything happening in America, I felt like it was an important time to not fill the airwaves with another white voice. There's so many great Black content creators that are more important to listen to right now. And I hesitated to get on because I didn't, again, want to take away from that platform. I also didn't want to say anything wrong. And that's what I'm going to first apologize for. If we're doing our job right as humans and as white people who are trying to help fix some of the racist problems that are in our country's systems, we are going to get things wrong. If I am doing my job right, somebody hopefully will come on here and say, I know you said things that you said kindly, but it's wrong. And hopefully in my best moments, I will hear that, swallow my pride, apologize, and do better. That's what we need to do, is we need to show up and try and not get our feelings hurt and not defend ourselves and just do better. The reason I ultimately decided to get on today and do a video, which I don't know how long it'll go, and hopefully you'll stick with me, is not to say take the time to listen to me, because I'll do more videos in the future of some great Black content creators, whether it's books or podcasts or videos or whatever. There's a million of those out right now, so I'm not going to, you guys can find those. Most of them are pretty great as far as I can tell. I got on here because I am tired of putting that burden of proof or explanation or education on a Black person who's already real tired. The last couple weeks for my friends who are Black have been awful. They've been awful for me, and I'm not Black, and I'm not worried about my life. And we've been staying home for the protests because we have some immunocompromised people in our family, and I've been trying to be wary of pandemic stuff, which I already have mixed guilt feelings about. And it may or may not be the right choice, but it's a choice, and I'm doing my best. But the friends that I have that are Black, that are more attuned to social justice-y things anyway, and they're showing up and they're answering questions and they're spreading videos and protests and organizing, they're really, really tired. I was watching Amber Ruffin, who is on Seth Meyers' show, Late Show, and they've been opening the show with her sharing stories that she has about encounters with cops. And it's obvious that she has no shortage of these stories, and everybody that I know that is not white also has no shortage of stories with cops or racial profiling or ways that they've been treated differently. So that makes sense. But she showed up in one of the videos and said that she was really overcome and surprised by how many people across the globe have shown up for Black people this week. And that made me really sad because it's true. We haven't been showing up for them. I've been reading narratives, and a few years ago, I don't know how many, several years ago, I listened to a podcast on Book Riot, and they were talking about how important it was to listen to own voices. And the thought had never occurred to me that I should be reading more diversely. And while I said, I know about this part of history, or I know about internment camps, or I know about this, I hadn't ever gone the extra step mentally to think that I should be reading about that from people who have experienced it in their families, who have lived that experience. And the thought kind of revolutionized my brain and how it thought. I challenged myself the first year that I came across that to mainly read own voices. And that year was one of my best reading years I've ever had in my life. Some of my favorite books are still from that year. I've done sermons talking about how important it is. I think that the people we will learn most from are the people who have been dealing with social justice change the longest, which is Black women. Black women, again, you look at the stats, like more health problems, die earlier. Just the fact that they have to bury more loved ones and they still keep going shocks the hell out of me, because as a honestly fragile white person, I haven't had to deal with that, and the thought scares me. So when I was listening to her be surprised about how many people showed up, and then recognizing that, yes, it's true, we haven't been showing up, and I've been more informed than other people, and I've talked about social justice, and I've talked about things that need to change, but I haven't actually acted other than talk, and that's crap. And it's not enough, and it's not going to change anything. I've showed up at some political groups over the years, and I've, tried to educate my vote in voting for people who care about those things. And I've donated sometimes, but I haven't done it consistently, and I haven't done it with any rhyme or reason. And it's going to take a lot of hard work and consistency and a lot of people doing it for anything to actually change. And so we've come to this point because we have spent years and years and years not listening or hearing and not changing things. So, no. Parenting's hard. So my feeling to get on here and talk today, I wanted to tell you again, it's Breonna Taylor's birthday. Do something, educate yourself, because she should be celebrating her 27th birthday and she's not. I wanted to tell you that as white people, if you're a white person, we're going to have to show up. We're going to have to show up consistently. We're going to screw up a lot, and we're going to have to swallow our pride and just keep going. Because if one little blip in our radar stops us, we weren't really that dedicated to begin with. If you're not a white person and you're listening to me, I am profoundly sorry. Because I've known better and I haven't done as well as I should have. And you don't need to see me cry, so I'm not going to. But I am profoundly sorry. And I will do my best to improve. And if I say something that's wrong, please correct me. And I will do my best to, I won't defend myself. Because my pride's not worth it. And I don't want anybody else defending my actions either. I will do better. I listened to an interview with Cory Booker with Stephen Colbert, and he was talking about how important it was to not recenter this on Trump and what he's doing. Because while what he's doing is completely wrong, it's not about him. It's about our country and what we've been doing for years and years and years and not changed. And he is a symptom of the problem. And he gave a lot of hope in saying that if we are what we claim we are, if we are about freedom and we are about equality and justice and diversity, then we will show up and we will change things. Because there's been a whole history of people who have tried to bring disgusting things into our country, like hate and prejudice and fear. And we've kicked it each time. Maybe not completely, obviously, but we've done our best. And so I'm choosing to believe in people. I've been really heartened by seeing more people talking about things. I hope it's not a blip on the radar. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about today was this book that I finished. It is the second book that I've read during quarantine because I can't read. I can't focus on anything lately. It's called Minor Feelings, An Asian American Reckoning by Cathy Park Hong. I will say I've seen this around for a really long time. Look at me holding up a book. I've seen this around for a really long time and I wanted to read it. We had a South Korean exchange student this past year, Jon. His Korean name is Wen-Kyu, but he prefers to be called Jon. I miss him so much. We had to send him back early to get him home before all of the pandemic-y stuff started. And he profoundly changed our family and I love him for it. But I hadn't really delved deep into Korean culture or Korean history as much. My focus has been more African-American, Latino-American, even Indian a little bit more. My sister-in-law is from India. And so I was excited to have kind of a new culture to learn about. And so I've been trying to read more Koreans and watch more Korean things. And so when I picked this up before all of this happened, and I started reading it, and then I kind of got distracted a little bit. And then I wasn't sure if I should be reading more Black history, activism things. But I decided this morning I could not sleep. It was a long night. I couldn't sleep. And so I came down and I actually finished the book. But there were a couple things in it that really stuck out to me that I wanted to share. She talks about when she was in the subway and there was an altercation with a man who had called her chink. And she was most mad at her white friend who kind of froze up and didn't say anything until later on, just kept repeating, like, I've just never been a part of anything like that. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. And she ended up really realizing that her anger was focused more on her friend who hadn't said anything and then was crying about it. And it was really convicting to me again, because I've seen things happen. And I've said things maybe after the fact or whatever. There's one particular moment, and I, to this day, don't remember exactly what or if I said anything. It was my first time really seeing racism played out in such a stark way in front of me, directed at my sister. We were at a grocery store, and this lady jumped in front of her, started putting things on the conveyor belt, which we'd obviously been there for before, and she had her daughter with her and her mom. And she said, at least I have a right to be in this country. And my sister did not miss a beat and just said, I have a right to be here too. Please get behind me. Like, had her get behind her. And that was the first time that happened to me. We were maybe 19 or 20, I think. And I'm ashamed to say, I don't think I said anything other than just standing there agape with my mouth open, because I hadn't, it didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense to me. And my sister, she's a force to be reckoned with, and didn't bat an eye before sticking up for herself, which I love her for. But I should have been the one to say something. Still don't know what I would have said, honestly. I'm bad in moments like that. I freeze up, but I need to get better. I think I am getting better. I still don't know what I would have said to that woman. Anyway, just these moments of realizing that I'm sometimes that white friend who froze and didn't know what to do. Another thing she talked about was the idea of, as being a minority, you have a situation, especially being born of immigrants in her particular situation, Cathy's, where the children oftentimes have to play the role of adults, translating things for their parents, or explaining different culture things to their parents, while viewing their parents being treated like children by the white majority. She shared a couple different stories in there, and it really made me kind of check myself on the ways that I have looked at other people and thought, oh, why don't they know better or differently? And not having that extra grace for people who are trying to negotiate a whole different set of cultural norms and language barriers. My mom works a lot with language acquisition. It's her job. And so just listening and realizing that as Americans, we are really stupid, honestly, when it comes to language and cultures. We know our own, and that's it. And everywhere else that I know, they know at least 2 languages, at least, and they are able to code switch, and they're able to know other cultures, not just their own. And I think we have just gotten so haughty, and I expect everybody to be like us, which honestly is not something to be proud of right now. So anyway, so that was my second thought from this. The third thought was when she's talking about a wall of whiteness kind of being around you. When you're a minority, you have all of the standards are based around white standards, whether it's a beauty standard or in a book, the curriculum is based on white classics. The music of a time is primarily defined by what the white majority likes, as opposed to Black people or Asian people or Hispanic people, or, you know, all of what we do is based on the white majority. And she was talking about how she went to a photo gallery and there were all of these pictures of women in labor giving birth in different ways, different positions. And instead of thinking what a beautiful display of maternity and womanhood that was, all she could see were white people everywhere. It's like when you go to the store and you see all the white dolls and maybe 2 others. When you look at TV, I mean, growing up, we had a couple of shows that were more mainstream that were not white people, but when it becomes what your whole world is wallpapered in, it's hard to feel important or recognized or seen. Shalom Sistas is a book by my friend Osheta Moore, and she talks about racial reconciliation, and she's doing some really great work on Instagram right now too, and Facebook Live. She's in Minnesota, in the cities, really scared. And she talks about in her book about how her standards of beauty were always centered around what white people thought was beautiful, and how it took her a really long time to readjust that. Being a woman is already hard and awful sometimes. It's beautiful too, but to mix in more standards, more white standards on top of already incredibly high standards is just awful to me to think about. So yeah, just the idea of a wall of whiteness that she addresses. This last week on social media, and this kind of made me think, a lot of people talked about, you know, we did our black squares, and I did change my picture, but I still continue to post other black content creators on my page. But the black squares, and then so many black artists and so many people to follow were posted and posted and posted. And I know that must have been, when I thought about it, later on of seeing black creator after black creator after black creator after black creator, and realizing that maybe there was like maybe 2 other posts, I thought, I wonder how it is for somebody to see their own skin color as the wallpaper. I hope it was good. I hope it wasn't sad that that wasn't the normal, but I'm sure it was. I thought about white people who might not understand and just think, oh, why aren't we done talking about this yet? And then just realizing that black people are probably saying that for the last hundreds of years. Why are we still talking about these white people? Why are we talking about their history? If you think about it, I mean, the curriculum that's in schools is like, had to learn all that and then get their own education on the side of their heritage. In America, that shouldn't be. We should be learning about everyone. Not just in America, in my opinion, but. So those are some things that really stuck out to me. And just the last thing I wanted to share was the fear of cancel culture. We've all seen so you've been publicly shamed TED Talk. It's a great TED Talk. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. But we live in a culture where if you are caught doing something inappropriate, you can have your whole life canceled. Whether it's the woman who called out the birder, Amy Miller, I want to say her Amy Taylor. I'm glad I forgot her name, honestly. Who called out the birder at Central Park. And he had a very kind response to her. I don't know if I could have been as kind. He didn't know if she would change if her whole life was taken away like that. And I'm not here to debate whether that was the right thing or not. I'm glad she had some repercussions for what she did, because that was dangerous. But for the most part, I hope we get used to making mistakes and keeping humble and keeping going to change things. We already have somebody in a very high office that refuses to acknowledge failure of any kind, mistakes of any kind, and that's very dangerous. So I'm here to say I am sorry for the mistakes that I've made. I've made a lot, and I'm going to do better, and I'm going to hopefully be forthcoming on here as I learn even more. Maybe I'll be braver enough to share where I've screwed up, because I hope that makes other people brave enough to share where they've screwed up and changed too. If I said something wrong, please call me out on it. I know I said Hispanic when I meant to say Latino or Latinx. I know it's tricky. I listened to I think it was on NPR podcast. They're talking about how white liberal women are the most afraid of admitting they don't know the language or they don't know the right thing to say. We're supposed to already come educated to the table with all the right answers from having done all of our research. And honestly, there's more research than any of us can all go through in a lifetime. So we need to get better about being scared of making mistakes. That's not going to help anybody. If I've said anything that's resonated with you, feel free to do a comment. I will be doing a couple videos in the next week of some great content to follow, some books that have changed me, some thoughts that I've gotten wrong and changed on. What do you think? What are you doing? I hope you're learning. I hope you're listening. I hope you're giving some Black people a break from doing all the work. At least go and demand some justice for Breonna Taylor and her family today. I will talk to you all later. I love you. Stay safe. And I'm sorry.